Welcome to Werezilla's Retrospective. I'm your host, Werezilla, and I've been doing this for 8 years. Funny how time flies, don't it?
Year after year of Japanese Transformers shows, many have asked what I think about some of the American-made entries in the franchise. Fair enough, there's a lot of material to choose from. Beast Wars, Beast Machines, Animated, Prime, Robots in Disguise. No, not that one. I reviewed that one. There you go. A certain web series that was meant to promote the Prime Wars toy lines.
They're gonna build an army of combiners!
As of this year, 2019, Transformers will be a 35-year-old franchise. Which means it's finally time to discuss the original series.
Now, I feel I should preface this video, more than most, with the following statement. Just because this is a video on the internet, that does not mean the subject will be negative. Over the past year, I can't help but feel that's become the expectation for movie, TV show, and game discussion, and it's tiring, to be honest. I want Werezilla's Retrospective to remember the good as well as the bad. While I commented on the flaws of the Takara and Unicron trilogies a lot, there was some things I enjoyed about them.
I bring this up because the original series is easily the most loved series in the franchise. It's definitely the one that gets the most number of homages, which is why I don't want to give the impression that I'm going to do nothing but bash it, but I also don't want to give the impression that I'm going to do nothing but praise it because it's no masterpiece. Oh, haha, very funny, the Masterpiece toy line, sure.
After so much has been added over the years, it almost feels like the original show is a rough draft for all of it. And rough drafts are, let's say, not perfect, to say the least. Some of it can come across as unfinished and not thought out, perhaps even rushed. Because it was. The toys have always been the primary selling point of Transformers, and the corresponding show needs to reflect what's on the shelves. As a result, the people making the show were aware of things like animation and continuity errors, but were on a tight schedule and had to promote the toys, so they couldn't really do much about it. Which is why later shows, additions to lore, and codifying of personalities of recurring characters feel more thought out.
And when I describe the original series like that, it does sound more like an interesting piece of Transformers history, rather than something that's enjoyable to watch in its own right. But that couldn't be further from the truth. There's still plenty to enjoy here. Let us begin.
Although frankly, I don't know what I can add about the original theme song that I haven't already said in other videos. It's super memorable, and something you could listen to for hours. Though I will say the variants we hear in Season 2 probably sets the tone for the show best, with its quicker pace and more dynamic visuals. Moving on. So the series begins with a three-parter More Than Meets the Eye, and the awesome voice of Victor Caroli.
On the planet Cybertron, life existed, but not life as we know it today. Intelligent robots that could think and feel inhabited the cities. They were called Autobots and Decepticons. But the brutal Decepticons were driven by a single goal: total domination. They set out to destroy the peace-loving Autobots, and a war between the forces of good and evil raged across Cybertron.
And they fought wastefully, it seems, as its left Cybertron starved for energy, prompting the two factions to leave their homeworld to find more, crash landing on prehistoric Earth. After 4 million years, they are brought back online in the present day. And by present day, I mean 1984, getting new alt modes, which end up not serving the purpose of disguising themselves, as they end up fighting on an oil rig towards the end of part 1, in plain view of all the people working there. Including Spike, our first human companion character, and his father Sparkplug. Strange that Sparkplug has his teenage son working with him on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean, but the Witwicky family of the original series, let's say their values are unique. Apparently Sparkplug is okay with Spike dating Carly, our fourth human companion character, even though she mentions going to college. And the same episode she's introduced in, it reveals Spike isn't old enough to drive, making him at most 15. Suddenly this got a lot more uncomfortable. So over the course of parts 2 and 3, the Decepticons manage to build themselves a ship so they can get back to Cybertron, but ends up crashing into the ocean where it stays for the rest of the series, serving as their base on Earth. As you can probably guess, there's not much story in parts 2 and 3, hence the quicker summary. but I will say it does a decent job characterizing most of the very large cast. You got the characters who will be mainstays throughout the rest of the franchise: Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream, Soundwave, and Bumblebee, though others that don't really get a lot of love these days also get some decent screen time, like Hound, Mirage, Bluestreak, and Huffer.
I knew it was hopeless.
Shut up, Rat Trap! I mean Huffer. Sorry, force a habit. But yeah, good start. Let's see where we go from here. Season 1 would follow a loose storyline from this point onward. In Episode 4, Transport to Oblivion, the Decepticons create a space bridge that allows them to travel between Earth and Cybertron, as well as reintroduce the audience to Shockwave, a character we had seen briefly in More Than Meets the Eye, watching over Cybertron in Megatron's absence, with the following episode, Roll For It, following up directly after its events and introducing the human companion character number 3, Chip Chase. There's another 3-parter in Season 1, The Ultimate Doom, that I honestly wish had greater consequences for the rest of the show. And can you really blame me? In it, the Decepticons pull Cybertron into Earth's orbit. You know what happens when two planets get close to each other, right?
This is only the beginning. The sum of Earth's magnificent energy will be mine. Have I saved Cybertron? Only to destroy the Earth.
Seeing all of that, you're probably thinking that the original series, from this point onward, is a post-apocalyptic thriller where humanity is in absolutely its worst condition, made even weaker to the Transformers than they already were. Yeah, I'm kidding. That doesn't happen. The damage is mostly fixed by the time the next episode is over and forgotten about for the rest of the series. Frankly, the episode where they introduced Wheeljack's workshop has more relevancy to future episodes than this one. But they didn't base one of the live-action movies off of that episode, did they?
This status quo will remain more or less the same for the remainder of the first 2 seasons, with additions of the cast along the way because buy our toys! Okay, it's not that blatant. In the first season, this was limited to Jetfire.
His name is Skyfire.
Sorry, legal issues with Robotech. I mean Skyfire, the Dinobots.
Me, Grimlock, no like orders. Me, Slag, no like anything.
Yeah, we'll get back to them. The Insecticons.
What is you, Autobot booby?
He said booby. And the Constructicons. Who get a...
Robot roll call. Scavenger, Mixmaster, Long Haul, Bone Crusher, Hook, and myself.
Yeah, that happens on occasion. I didn't say these introductions were perfect, especially as far as the origin of the Constructicons, which is one of the show's most well-known continuity errors, but we'll get to that. Season 2 doesn't move the story forward, but it does introduce a lot more characters. Most of them show up in the 2-parter Dinobot Island, presumably over the space bridge, but I won't lie, this isn't told to the audience, it's just something fans have speculated on over the years. One of the few exceptions to this is the character Omega Supreme, and his backstory is a good point where I should transition over to one of the show's more infamous aspects. It's continuity errors. Now, sometimes this show can get things straight. Like I said, Season 1 has a loose string of episodes that flow one into another, or have callbacks to others, like when the Decepticons find the ship they originally used to get to Earth.
Which is the episode of origin for this little gem.
Energy. This stuff's the greatest.
And other times you have to wonder if the writers weren't communicating with each other or something. More Than Meets the Eye showed us the Autobots could fly, but this is disregarded, for the most part, for the rest of the series. The Key to Vector Sigma 2-parter introduced us to the supercomputer that created the Cybertronian race, established to be the only thing that can make Cybertronians truly alive. Despite Wheeljack and Ratchet having built the Dinobots on Earth, and they seem to be just as sentient, if less intelligent, than all the other Autobots. Heck, if anything, they're stronger than the average Transformer, something that remains consistent even in Season 3. And how about those Constructicons? Omega Supreme's focus episode reveals he was friends with them millions of years ago before they were brainwashed into serving Megatron and betrayed Omega, before he chased them across the galaxy, eventually ending up on Earth. Makes sense, right? Well, there's dialogue in their Season 1 introduction that suggests they were built quite recently on Earth. There are a few fan theories that try to fill these holes for all the good that does. Continuity is a strength as well as a weakness for this show, it seems. Speaking of things that are hit and miss for this show, there are very, very few shots in this show that don't have some kind of animation error. A lot of the time it's minor, like a coloring mistake, sparking a tongue-in-cheek debate over the correct colors for Rumble and Frenzy. Other times it's a layering mistake, making characters smaller or larger than they should be. Sometimes characters will be straight up misshapen, and other times they will use the wrong character model entirely. Most of the time it feels like a necessary evil of the rushed production of the show, and can make a great drinking game with other Transformers fans. Whenever the episode is animated by Toei. Unfortunately, 3 episodes of Season 2, The Autobot Run, City of Steel, and The Core, were animated by a studio known as ACOM. Oh dear. These episodes do not look like they belong in a show from the 80s. I expect this animation style from Hanna-Barbera in the 60s. Which of course led to this frame. Yeah. This looks like something you'd see on your fridge, not in a show broadcasted for syndication. Honestly, this show has a lot of silly moments, ones that are easy to laugh at in this day and age, but these episodes really made me feel like I'm too old to be watching this. Speaking of silliness, it's time for some of the other oddities I noticed going through this show. For one thing, Soundwave's cassette minions are overpowered. I am not exaggerating when I say multiple times Soundwave would send out Laserbeak, Ravage, Rumble, or occasionally Frenzy and Buzzsaw to fight the Autobots, who succeed where a normal-sized Decepticon failed. What exactly is Ravage made out of that allows him to pounce on and overpower Autobots 3 times his size? I guess the cassettes are the ones who are really made out of sterner stuff. The episode Prime Problem gave us this scene. For context, Optimus had just taken out all of the original 3 Seekers single-handedly.
Laserbeak, you tinfoil turkey.
Another thing you'll notice with great frequency is the Autobots and Decepticons, who I remind you are anywhere between 15 to 30 feet tall and turn into vehicles, are often shown entering buildings they, by all rights, should not fit in. Again, it's something you have to learn to accept and move on, or else it's going to drag down your enjoyment of the episode. As for what they're doing in human buildings, it's often because Megatron is trying to steal a power source or some kind of weapon. And because Season 2 has a whopping 49 episodes, Megatron sometimes comes across as desperate when he's constantly saying something along the lines of, "Finally, I will have the power to conquer the universe!" or some variant. The creators of the show do try to shake things up a bit, only for Megatron's plan to seem convoluted when a simpler answer is staring him right in the face. Attack of the Autobots is a perfect example. He uses a spray that makes himself and Starscream invisible and uses it to sneak into the Autobots' ship and reprogram their charging stations to turn the Autobots evil. I'm pretty sure the invisibility spray was all he really needed in this case. Or the Autobot Run, one of the ACOM episodes, in which his latest weapon leaves the Autobots stuck in vehicle mode and decides to dispose of the Autobots by building a machine that'll disassemble them and takes as slowly as possible to get around to actually doing it. What I'm getting at is the original Megatron is a typical 80s villain. He's enjoyable to watch, but he's not a complex character in any way. Also, the original Starscream is not subtle. Like at all. He's in most episodes of Season 1 and 2, and in every single one of them, he's either complaining about how he would make a better leader than Megatron, or shooting him in the back. But his toy was still on the shelves, so his position among the Decepticons remains where it is. Moving forward, the last batch of episodes for Season 2 introduced the 4 Scramble City teams.
They're gonna build an army of combiners!
And of the 4 teams, the Combaticons are easily the most fleshed out, being part of a coup by Starscream to overthrow Megatron, before striking out on their own in the following episode. It's a damn shame that it wasn't used as the Season 2 finale. It hits the reset button to be sure, but I'll take a squad of renegade Decepticons trying to fling Earth into the sun over whatever the hell Bot was trying to do. I honestly don't know, because that episode feels like several unfinished scripts mashed together. Not exactly a great place to end the season on. Oh well, it's time for the movie, where everything is going to change.
The Transformers will return after these messages.